Calgary Flames forward Blake Coleman was recently on a podcast and revealed that Johnny Gaudreau wanted to sign an extension with the Flames way back in 2021 before he ultimately decided to, of course, sign with the Columbus Blue Jackets the next summer. Now, some of the information in this video is going to be very frustrating as Flames fans, but it may have all been a blessing in disguise for the franchise. We will get into all that more in this video, but first, I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I am Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe because only right around 26% of the people watching are subscribed. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames, then make sure you join the fastest growing community of Flames fans on the internet. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. We got lots to talk about in this video, but first, I just wanted to give a big shout out to my boy Jeff, big fan of the channel. Ran into him last night on Blanco on 17th Ave, which is of course the Red Mile during the playoff time. Had a hilarious interaction with him. It was absolutely amazing. Big shout out to you, Jeff. The one thing that bothered me about it, though, was there were so many Oilers watching the game last night on our turf on the Red Mile. That bothered me a bit, but Oilers one game away from the Stanley Cup final. My goodness, it is getting scary. It is squeaky bum time. But let's get into the main bread and butter of this video and talk about how Johnny Hockey could have stayed. Now, I know since Johnny Gaudreau decided to obviously leave and go to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a pay cut to so-called be closer to his family. Who the heck wants to go to Columbus? Let's be real. I know a lot of people are happy that he left, and that is completely valid. I will get into the fact that his departure may have been a big blessing in disguise for the franchise. But first, I just want to kind of give an article the benefit of the doubt about how this is really devastating for Flames fans that he left, because look at where the franchise went after he left. So just give it a chance here, at least at first. So let's get into this article. It is from Colton Pankill. All credit to him for this article, and it goes, Coleman reveals Gaudreau wanted to extend with the Flames back in 2021. So before he had that big career year in 2021-22. Fans were furious with Gaudreau following the 2021-22 season when they learned he had left the Flames and instead signed a 7-year deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They took it as a major slap in the face that he would prefer to leave Calgary for a destination that isn't often popular amongst NHLers. I personally have never heard anyone in their life say, hey, let's take a vacation to Columbus. Unless you are the biggest Ohio State Buckeyes fan, I genuinely have never ever heard that. As it turns out, however, Gaudreau may have originally been the one who wanted to stick around, while the organization was hesitant about it. In a recent interview on the Cam and Strick podcast, Blake Coleman did his best to break the entire situation down. So hearing here that Gaudreau was totally willing to open up to sign an extension, especially back in 2021, before he had that big career year when he was worth even more after that year, the Flames had a chance to extend the guy. And look, if they extended him, the Flames would be in a very, very different situation. And I know so many Flames fans will say, but he was just a regular season player. Look at what he did in the playoffs. It's not like he did all that much other than scoring that big overtime goal against the Dallas Stars. And that's true, but he was still really, really good. And the Flames, we can't deny, would be in a very different spot had he stayed. But let's continue the article here. I had heard rumblings, just, frustration with how things had been with his relationship with the team, Coleman said. The summer before, he wanted to extend and all these things. To make matters even worse for Flames fans, Coleman said he doesn't think Matthew Tkachuk would have wanted to leave had Gaudreau re-signed. I think if Johnny stays, I don't know that Chucky would have left, Coleman said. And just imagine how different things would be if these two were still in Flames uniforms. We've seen how capable Tkachuk is not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs the past two runs with the Florida Panthers. Johnny Gaudreau, obviously it hasn't been as good since he left, but if they were still together, the Flames, there's no denying they would be in a window of contention, at least playoff contention. And it is kind of devastating to know that if Gaudreau had signed, even in the summer of 2021, then Tkachuk would have stayed. And I know the majority of Flames fans would much rather have Tkachuk back than Johnny Hockey, of course. but knowing that there was a strong chance that we could have had both, had the management been willing to give Gaudreau an extension when they could have, I mean, you got to look at who the management was back then. It wasn't the current management, which shows a lot about how the Flames are as a franchise right now. But either way, knowing that Gaudreau really could have stayed, and it might originally have been the team's fault before it was Johnny Hockey's fault, it's really, really frustrating as Flames fans, and it's really devastating to know that we could have had this window of contention. Look, we could have still been competing this year. We would have kept Chris Tanev, Noah Hannafin, all the other UFAs going forward. You know, Markstrom would have been a lot happier without being in trade rumors, and the Flames could have been easily in the playoffs this season, maybe even last season as well. They just missed out last year, so who knows what could have happened. But let's wrap up this article here. This has to be extremely painful for Flames fans to hear, as this team would undoubtedly be more competitive with Gaudreau and Tkachuk still around. Instead, they were replaced by players such as Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, and MacKenzie Weegar. The latter two have been good players for the Flames, but there's no denying the swap has hurt the team. Yes, we were a lot better with Gaudreau and Tkachuk than we have been in the Huberdeau era, we will call it. One can't help but wonder if Gaudreau would want a do-over on this entire situation, as well as he struggled for 2 straight seasons on what has been a poorly constructed Blue Jackets roster. Through a combined 161 games, he's only managed 33 goals and 134 points, while putting up a horrendous plus-minus rating of -60. It has been a rough go for Gaudreau in Columbus. I'm sure it would be a lot better had he stayed in Calgary. I mean, he only has pretty much as many points as he put up in his last season with the Flames, only about 20 more through 2 whole seasons, which is a little bit ridiculous. But as much as it does stink that those guys left and, you know, kind of shafted the Flames, it might just be a blessing in disguise. And a lot of people will agree here with what is about to be said. But the fact that Gaudreau left, and that, of course, Tkachuk got traded away as well, and the Flames made that big trade, because of how things have turned out, there has been so much turnover in the Flames organization that really has been, in a way, a blessing in disguise. Because sure, the short-term pain sucks. The Flames haven't been all that great the past 2 seasons, especially this season. They probably won't be very good at all for the next couple of seasons as well. But there has been good changes that has come out of Gaudreau's decision to not sign with the Flames, and the Flames' original decision to not sign him. The biggest one, of course, is that this guy right here, Brad Treliving, Boston Pizza Jr., is gone. He is no longer at the helm. He made some very questionable decisions, and if it is true that Gaudreau initially wanted to sign in the summer of 2021, and this guy right here, now the Toronto Maple Leafs general manager, did not want to extend him at that time, then sayonara, buddy. Good thing Brad is out of town. I know a lot of Flames fans are already pleased that he is gone, but this just gives even more fuel to be happy that he is gone. And then, of course, who was he replaced with? Well, we've got these two at the helm of the organization in a way. Craig Conroy, of course. Now we have a manager who is committed to doing all the necessary steps in order to build a very, very competitive roster that can compete and contend for a Stanley Cup in the future, getting all possible assets back, whereas Brad Treliving genuinely let Johnny Gaudreau walk away for nothing and then made a very bad trade in the Tkachuk trade. That isn't fully his fault. I mean, Tkachuk wanted out, and the Flames did think they were getting a good return. But either way, I am so much happier to have Conroy than Treliving, and then Ryan Huska as well. Last year, I know we had Daryl Sutter, of course, and there was no Gaudreau and Tkachuk, but I mean, Sutter completely lost the locker room, and then Ryan Huska, he came in, and he is also committed to the same kind of mindset that, of course, Craig Conroy is as well, in terms of just where the franchise is going and kind of the plans for the Flames. And that's great. That has been a huge blessing. It's kind of collateral in the Johnny Gaudreau decision to go to Columbus. And as frustrating as it is to know that we could still have a very good roster, it's not necessarily a bad thing, knowing that our future is a lot more bright now and we're not kind of stuck in that mediocrity zone that we potentially could have been had Johnny Hockey and Chucky still been here. And another blessing in disguise too is that, look, I know Jonathan Huberdeau hasn't necessarily panned out yet, but we have a guy in that trade in MacKenzie Weegar who is one of the best defensemen in the NHL, put up insane numbers offensively while blocking 200 shots as well. Looks like he could potentially be the captain of the future, and he fits the mindset of the GM and the coach right now of he is willing to stick through a rebuild in order to contend in the future. Short-term pain for hopefully some long-term absolute joy and elation when the Flames win the Stanley Cup when they get the new arena. But either way, it's not all bad that Johnny Gaudreau left. While it would be fun to be in the playoffs, and maybe even still in the playoffs right now like the Oilers are, it is not a bad way to build up the future. Maybe it kind of sucks that he didn't sign, but whatever. We don't always have to look at everything negatively. Now let's wrap up this video with the comment of the day, everyone's favorite part of the day. And this one came from yesterday's video about TJ Ginla, an absolute banger of a comment. It came from this user here. I first met TJ when he was about 8 months old. He seemed kind of useless at that point. I'm glad he's come so far. Aren't we all? I mean, it's great to know that at the age of 8 months, he wasn't all that great of a hockey player. Maybe a bit of a late bloomer starting after the age of 8 months. I know most of us were definitely playing competitive hockey at the age of 8 months. But either way, it is great to know that he has come so far in the past 17 years or so. What a fantastic player he's becoming. Potential future Flame that a lot of people would love to see. And it's great to see that he has just developed into a great hockey player since he started out his first year of life as not that great of a hockey player. That was a good humored one. I love those kind of comments. Make sure you comment down below if you want to be featured in a future segment of Comment of the Day. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you like what you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.